right, it's time to put this thing back in the car. I'm going to try to keep this video short because everything is just opposite of disassembly. So I won't spend a lot of time on any of the steps. One thing I got to do is put a new O-ring on the transmission to seal here. And I'm going to go ahead and while I've got this on the bench, I'm going to put most of the oil in right through there. Because it'll be easier to do it now than when it's up in the car. And as long as I don't tilt it this way or side to side, none of it should come out. So I'm going to put at least a quart in there now. And then we'll get it on the stand and put it up against the transmission. Once she's on the lift, head it up. You have to angle it just a little bit at the beginning to get it to clear there on the back. And now we can just got to get the output shaft to line up with the splines on the pinion. And there we go. Put the nuts and bolts in, finish pulling it together. It's just hanging on the O-ring right now. Tighten that up, we'll be able to raise it up. Okay, what I've done so far, put all the nuts and bolts in, bolted the diff to the transmission. Tighten all that down. The way everything is setting. The diff is level as it is, so I went ahead and filled it up with oil. I moved and went back to the regular transmission jack under the transmission. And now's a good time to snap on your speed sensor wire, which is, I think, the only wire I disconnected on this, except for the oxygen sensor up front. But you want to make sure you connect that back up or you'll be crawling back under here later hooking it up, which is not easy when the exhaust is in place. So next up, you should be able to start raising that back up, getting in position so I can put the tunnel plate and the exhaust back in. Okay, at this moment we have the tunnel plate is in, X-pipe forward exhaust is in. Make sure to tuck your clutch hydraulic line back up in its bracket if you pop that loose. I've hooked up the wideband up front. And I think that's all. Now we should be ready to put on the titanium axle back. Yeah, the axle back exhaust is in, so now it's time to raise up the cradle and start fastening this up. Okay, this is actually my second attempt at lifting this up. First time I had the transmission jack a little further back than I did when I took it out because the big floor jack was running into it before I could get everything lined up. So I switched the transmission jack sideways, give me more clearance, and then put a block under the back of the cradle there to keep it more level. So up we go again. Just a balancing act of getting all the stuff to go through the holes at the same time. There we go. I can get the bolts on this trans mount to go through. Everything else looks pretty good. I think what I need to do is lower the transmission down here. Get those transmission bolts going through the mount before I try to hit the pins on the cradle. Probably work better. All right, those are started. So now we can pivot everything else however we need to. Oh, that looks much better. I think I just needed to start with the transmission and the diff down slightly lower. I think I had that up too high and was throwing everything in a bind. Front's on enough I can get the nuts started on it. Then I'm going to reposition the jack to where it's lifting right on the back of the cradle, so we can shove the back end up on the pins. And there we go. We got all four sides in, or all four nuts on. Now we'll just cinch it up, and we can get the transmission mounts and the jacks out completely. Just a matter of twisting it around a little bit till it finds how it wants to go up in it. It could have went a little easier, but considering that's the first time I've ever done it this way, that wasn't too bad. Okay, just got to finish bolting those up. Torque those down, then put all your control arms and your brakes and everything back on there. And when I get all that done, we'll do a breakaway torque test on the new clutch discs. All right, short of putting the tires back on, it is all complete. Suspension's all in there. I think it's tied up like it should. A couple of final thoughts. I do still like pulling the cradle by itself. That worked pretty slick. It was a little fiddly getting it back in there, but not too bad. And I think if I may take, and next go around, use the transmission jack here to lower the cradle down. And I may take and build like a V notch piece to put on a bottle jack to hold that up in the front. That way I don't have any clearance issues sliding the cradle back in. And bottle jacks are a little tippy, but that can't really go side to side because even lower down it's still in the tunnel. So I think that'll work pretty slick. Give me more room back here. Either that or adjust the platform on my big hydraulic jack to cradle the cradle better. To keep it straighter and where I could raise it. But other than that, it went pretty slick. Everything I've done this morning, putting it back, I think I've been out here about 3 hours. So that's not bad. So let's get on to the final thing. Let's do a torque test on these new clutches. Okay, transmission is in neutral like it's got to be. Just like before, we'll block the rotor there. We'll go over to the other side and see what kind of torque reading we get. All right, here we go. Now that is exceeding the limit of my torque wrench. Let's swap it over and see what the other side does. Yep, that was 100 pounds there. Wasn't budging, so we're good. We're real good. What I'll do is take it out and drive it. If for some reason I did something wrong and they won't release at all, it'll be hopping around as I go around corners, but I don't imagine that'll be an issue. I think, like I'm saying, just hand pressure, pushing on those clutch packs, it was difficult to move it. And these have been put in there. They've never turned at all since they've been stacked up and compressed with the spring. So I'll see how it drives. I did use a different oil than normal. The only synthetic lube we had in town was Lucas. I don't mind their stuff. I've used some of their oil and motorcycles before. It's supposed to have the limited slip additive in it. So I didn't add anything else to it. If we get chatter, I'll put up a small feedback video on this. If I get any chatter, I'll mention that. But right now, it's all back together besides the tires and wheels, and I won't bother you with that. Hopefully, in the next couple of days, I'll get to take it out and drive it. And thank you for watching.